spend about 10 minutes talking about what it is that we do as a company. Spend about 10, 15 minutes talking about why we got into this space and sort of how we got into this space. And maybe 10 minutes on a couple of things we learned along the way. And then sort of it'll be useful if you guys can just shoot questions at me. So I'm one of the 5 founders of Delhivery. We're a 5-year-old business. So fundamentally what Delhivery does is we provide infrastructure and services and technology to businesses which are going online. We have 3 fundamental sets of customers. They are e-commerce retailers, so Flipkart, Amazon, Snapdeal, Paytm, eBay, the whole gang. We then sell our services to small and medium businesses who list and sell through these platforms. So you would have noticed when you go onto Flipkart or you go onto Amazon, there's a merchant name over there, right? So those merchants are direct customers of Delhivery as well. And the third set of customers are enterprises or brands. So if you were to go to the Tata Click website and buy something from them, or you went to Titan or FastTrack, we would be the ones delivering either from their warehouses or their stores. So we have 3 fundamental groups of customers that we service. What we provide to them is, first of all, the physical infrastructure for logistics, which is warehousing and transportation. So we do what we call fulfillment services, which is where these companies store their inventory with us across about 13 warehouses in the country. And we provide the storage, pick, pack, and ship operation for them. And then we run the largest transportation network of our kind across the country. So we deliver to about 6,800 odd pin codes, which translates to about 530 cities across the country. It's a completely self-owned and self-operated network. And we deliver on their behalf to the consumer. Along with this, obviously, what we do is also provide reverse logistics, payment services, packaging material to their suppliers, dropship, warehousing. That's the whole sort of gamut of the services that we provide. And we service today close to about 2,500 e-commerce companies, about 150,000 merchants, and about 100 brands, right? That's one part of the service. The second important part of the service that we built over the last 5 years was to build the entire back-end technology stack. So when you actually go online, a whole bunch of stuff happens after you click the checkout button on the website. We have to figure out where the item is going to come from, which seller is going to sell it, what's the shortest path from there to you. Is it a COD shipment or a prepaid shipment? If it's a COD shipment, how much cash do we collect from you? How do we move that cash back to the seller? All of those systems are essentially a self-created platform, the backend, which we then open out to our customers. So essentially, they have access to our warehouse management systems, they have access to our transport management systems, they have access to our return systems, our payment systems, all of which combine and integrate deeply into their front ends or into their order management, right? And these are completely, essentially self-built, completely flexible and customizable. We provide this technology to our clients as well. So in essence, that's what Delhivery does. The simplest way for you to think about it in terms of comparables, so the way we think about the business is, are you guys familiar with Amazon Web Services, AWS? It's the big cash cow in the Amazon portfolio. Fundamentally, the way AWS works is there are 2 core services, which are called storage and compute. Storage is basically where they store all of the data. Compute is basically something which is Elasticsearch, which allows you to run specific computations on the data that you have. And then if you're a business, they sell you a whole bunch of other value-added services, right? So they'll sell you database services, they'll sell you Firebase, which are all web services. In that sense, the way we think of Delhivery is that our warehousing arm is really storage, our transportation arm is really compute. And then to our customers, we sell a whole bunch of value-added services on top of this, which we've built over the last 5 years, which include things like less than truckload shipping, international shipping, both out of India and into India, inventory management services, reverse logistics, right? So that's pretty much how we've grown as a company. So that is what we do. In terms of how we got here, so the 5 of us had no background. When we started the company, had absolutely no background in B2B businesses, or in logistics, or in e-commerce, or in technology, or frankly in anything which was remotely connected to what we do today. When we quit, I come from a background in consulting, so I went to IIM Bangalore, quit, joined a company called Bain & Company, spent about 2.5 years consulting for them in London, Delhi, and Bombay, and did a lot of work on the telecom side, but absolutely nothing in this sector. 3 of us come from a background at Bain, and then we had two other founders who came and joined us. What we started out with was a very simple premise. When we quit Bain and the five of us got together, we went to every e-commerce company in the land. And we said, listen, there's a lot of, a small company by then had actually started making news. It was called Flipkart. This was in 2009. They were doing 500 orders a day, and people were buying books from them. So we called up the founders of Flipkart, and we said, hey, look, you guys just raised some capital at that point from Accel Partners. What's this all about? And spent time talking to them, and then there were a whole bunch of other companies. I don't know if you remember these names, Fashion and You, Urban Touch, Health Card. All of them came back and said, look, our biggest problem is as a B2C company, we essentially are outsourcing our consumer experience to the logistics partner, who at that point was Aramex and Blue Dart. Blue Dart is DHL in India, and Aramex is a fairly large Middle Eastern company here. And they're terrible at what they do. When we ship a box through them, it takes them 3 to 5 days to get to the consumer. We don't get our cash back in time. We have no idea where the box is. And this is a huge problem. So perhaps out of some degree of overconfidence at the time, we said this sounds like a problem that we can solve very easily. Let's go out and start a logistics company. And the idea as to why we started was with two things. One is we said that this is a service that is common to everybody in the space. Right? If you're a B2B player in this space, we had two options. One is go B2C, which is to actually go and start an e-commerce company ourselves. The other was to say build something that's common to every B2C business in the land. And we said that actually is more exciting than going and trying to become one more e-commerce company. B, we actually spent a lot of time with our competitors when we started out. One of the questions they wanted me to cover was how do you build partnerships in this space? The interesting thing we discovered was that our first set of partners were our customers and our competitors. Our customers, because they actually helped us, they expressed a need which we were able to co-develop a solution for with them. And our competitors, because they actually helped us figure out how to grow our business in the first place. So we went to Blue Dart and we said, hey, we want to start a business in transportation. Contrary to laughing us out of the room, they actually opened up all of their systems and they said, you're welcome to visit all our hubs, you're welcome to visit all our DCs. And we went and looked at them. And we realized at that point that existing players in India were simply unaware of what was coming their way through e-commerce. Simply put, here are a couple of reasons why. If you've ever gone to a courier store in India, you'll discover that they still give you a handwritten waybill, right? Which means chances are by the time you get back to your home or wherever it is, your product actually hasn't moved and it's been 8 to 10 hours because the time it takes them for them to manually type in the information by which time some guy realizes that your product is there is way too long. If you ever bought things online, you realize that that's not how consumers behave though. The second somebody makes a purchase online, the next thing that person does is to go and see when am I going to receive this product. Right? And they actually expect both the e-commerce company as well as the fulfillment partner, which is a delivery or whoever else, to have real-time information on this. None of these companies was equipped to provide real-time information at all. They were still operating off of manual, old systems which they had built in the late 90s, without understanding that they now had the tools to go real-time. That was problem one, which was a technology problem. Problem two was they simply failed to recognize the value of cash in the economy. Logistics companies never deal with cash in general until the e-commerce boom started. All of them dealt in prepaid systems, right? You go and you give them a letter or a document or an ATM card or a checkbook. This was the first time that someone was saying, I want you to take my products one way and bring my cash back the other. So what the logistics companies really missed was that while one part of their business was transportation or warehousing, there was another part which was actually a payment gateway, a giant offline payment gateway which over time would have to transact billions of dollars of cash annually with complete fidelity. And it was a system that they were completely unprepared to build. The advantage in our case was since we had spent a whole bunch of time with our customers who all said, listen, by the way, 90% of my volume is a cash on delivery. You need to figure out how to get this cash back to me. We started out by saying, let's build a payment gateway on top of our services right at the start. That was problem number two with the existing players or competitors. And problem number three that came out was the sheer industrial engineering of the networks themselves. Logistics networks are engineered a certain way. If you've done Stats 101, they're giant transportation problems which converge to fairly simple solutions. Typically, the larger a logistics company and the greater the diversity of products it handles, the more it moves towards a hub and spoke sort of model. The challenge with the hub and spoke model, if you remember Stats 101, is basically the number of times you have to touch a parcel as it moves through the network. Because by